answer to all 4 pieces of
Without
legislation.
objection.
Thank you.
Senator
Mr.
Cotton.
Chairman, I appreciate today's bipartisan show of support for law enforcement, but I have to say that unfortunately this committee too often undermines our brave police officer by rubber stamping extreme unqualified nominees. So I'd like to briefly discuss the wages of this committee's failure to do its job when it comes to nominations. This week, we received the welcome news that Rachel Rollins, a radical, pro-criminal Soros prosecutor, is resigning in disgrace from her perch as U.S. Attorney for Massachusetts. Given Ms. Rollins' long-standing disdain for the criminal justice system, I'd say that Police Week is a good time for her long overdue departure. Over 18 months ago, my Republican colleagues and I warned that Rollins was dangerously unfit to serve as U.S. Attorney. But my Democratic colleagues refused to listen, and every single one voted to confirm her nomination on a party line vote. It was the first time in 28 years that we held a roll call vote on a U.S. Attorney nominee. Many of our Democratic colleagues accuse Republicans of partisan obstructionism. Senator Warren labeled Republicans opposing Ms. Rollins as pathetic. Senator Markey charged that Republican concerns aren't based in reality, and instead suggested that Republicans were, quote, just plain scared, and, quote, because Rachel Rollins is a strong black woman. The chairman issued a statement that Republicans were disrespecting the role of home state senators and disregarding the vital role U.S. attorneys play in our justice system, and dismissed our concerns. But during that very same markup where the committee deadlocked on Mrs. Rollins' nomination, we also voice voted out a block of 8 other U.S. Attorney nominees, and we have since confirmed many more such nominees without incident. Rollins was different, however. She said openly that her goal as a prosecutor was to dismantle the criminal justice system from the inside. As a district attorney, she refused to allow prosecutors to enforce laws against fentanyl trafficking, breaking and entering, resisting arrest, or malicious destruction of property, among other crimes. The Boston Police Patrolmen's Association accused Rollins of incendiary and anti-police remarks and noted that Rollins' history of quickly and cavalierly labeling all police officers murderers had undoubtedly incited violence against the proud men and women of the Boston Police Department. Rollins, of course, dismissed their concerns as, quote, white fragility. Unfortunately, our Democratic colleagues also dismissed these ominous warnings from the Boston police. But Mrs. Rollins' problems were not limited to her abysmal professional record. She also had a long history of ethical lapses and bad judgment. We learned of a truly bizarre case of road rage where Rollins forced another vehicle out of a merge lane, threatened the driver, turned on sirens that for some reason she had in her own vehicle, and then sped off through a red light. When confronted by a news crew about it, she later threatened to report the news crew to the police. Our Democratic colleagues ignored these red flags, and every Democrat, again, voted in favor of her nomination. Before long, Rollins used her newly confirmed position as a federal prosecutor for her own personal and political benefit, violating numerous laws. When I learned from sources in Boston federal law enforcement that Rollins was planning to attend a political fundraiser as a U.S. attorney, despite having been advised by the Department of Justice that her appearance would violate both department policy and federal law, I referred her for investigation, kicking off simultaneous investigations by the Department of Justice Office of the Inspector General and the U.S. Office of Special Counsel. Yesterday, they both released their reports, totaling over 260 shocking pages. Among their many findings, they found that Rollins used her position for political revenge, trying to gin up and leak a bogus federal investigation to influence the outcome of a local election. She used her position to obtain free tickets to the Boston Celtics. She used her personal cell phone to leak non-public department information about federal investigations for her own political purposes. She accepted lavish gifts of travel, and she repeatedly lied to both the Inspector General and the Office of Special Counsel. These are not just any old garden variety ticky-tack ethical violations. Rollins' conduct was so bad that the Inspector General referred her to Merrick Garland for criminal prosecution. The Office of Special Counsel, tasked with investigating allegations of Hatch Act violations said her conduct was, quote, among the most egregious Hatch Act violations that they had ever investigated. Yet Merrick Garland took just 3 weeks, 2 of which were over Christmas and New Year's, to decide that he wouldn't prosecute Rachel Rollins. Of course, Garland had no trouble prosecuting Joe Biden's political opponents for lying to investigators or for other process crimes. If Rachel Rollins were a Republican, I expect his decision would also be different. So it's good to see some of our colleagues finally coming around to the light of the indisputable proof of Rollins' unfitness for office. Yesterday, Mr. Chairman, you issued a statement that you were deeply concerned about her misconduct and supported her resignation. I hope other Democrats will join you. I also hope that you will join us in calling for Rachel Rollins' criminal prosecution in light of clear and indisputable evidence she lied to federal investigators. But unfortunately, I don't think this committee or our Democratic colleagues have yet learned their lesson about rubber stamping unfit, extreme, party line nominees. The committee continues to force such nominees through, and in fact, on the Senate floor right now, we're considering such a nominee. Republicans have given bipartisan support to the vast majority of the president's nominees. I hope my Democratic colleagues will begin to realize that when we do raise serious concerns about not only the professional record, but the character and integrity of the nominee's fitness for office, it's worth listening with an open mind.
Thank you.